Joko Beck often talked about relationships as being a really good place to practice, really good place where we experience our resistance to life as it is, just the way things are in relationship, because that's where we feel the tension. Because, well, other people, even other people we know really well, they're unpredictable, they do strange things, they have lives that they lead, they go in their own direction. It's hard to maintain our sense of control in relationship to other people. And in fact, Thich Nhat Hanh always used to say that actually people outside the monastic Sangha used to think how amazing, how hard it must be a monk, how difficult, how intense the practice is. So, well, actually it's much easier. It's much harder practicing being out in the world because you're subject to so many more stresses, strains. It's complicated. Equally, my own teacher, Barry, likes to talk about other people as, other people, such a buzzkill. Why? Because they do strange things. They're unpredictable. It's hard to keep control. And of course, most of us who've been away on a session or 10 have had that experience of coming back, and it might be driving home on the way home or coming back to our family or any of those other things. And we're so calm, we're so in control, and suddenly, bang, it all blows to pieces because, and it's usually something really trivial. It's not like we've walked into a major anything really. It's just something. It's just shattered this. Because we've forgotten what practice is, because we've imagined it's about being calm and self-contained and in control. Whereas other people are there to show us that that's not what practice is about at all. Practice is always about otherness. And really the two kinds of otherness. And keep coming back to this, but I keep coming back to it because maybe I don't really understand what's really crucial here. The otherness of other people, the way they're like us but not us. And really that's a difficult thing to get your head around. But also the otherness of ourselves. We're none of us singular, none of us consistent, self-consistent, one thing. And it's traditional in Zen now to use Walt Whitman's line, I contain multitudes, but it's true. It's important because it's true. The selves I think I am, I imagine I am, the things I think I should be, the selves I might really wish to be, the selves I really wish I wasn't, or the selves that I fear that I really might be. And we're all of these different things at these different moments, and we share. We share this body, more or less. And there's always a relationship between how we are with the others and how we are with the others that are actually ourselves. I wanted to begin to talk about intimacy because, well, we can use it as a euphemism for sex, but that's certainly not the only kind of intimate relationship, is it? In a sense, exactly what I've been talking just now, those relationships with myself, sharing this body, they couldn't really be more intimate. But then we have all kinds of different intimate relationships. For those we are cared for by, for those we care for ourselves, for those with whom we live with, maybe those whom we just share space with, maybe it's just the people, or maybe just the person that we actually really talk to. Or maybe it's the person that we wish was there, who we could actually talk to. So many possibilities, so many different things of intimacy. The parents of our memory. I think any intimate relationships are those where we become, and I use another word which we can use as connection with our sexuality, exposed, naked. And that might be revealing this body to a somebody that we've never revealed it to before, naked for the first time. But it might equally be just the experience of being with the person for whom we're, in a sense, always naked. The people who really know us best, even those people who, in one sense, maybe know us better than we know ourselves. They see us from the outside. They can't tell the same endless stories that we all tell to ourselves about who we are and how we are. And maybe we get a little bit of that, maybe a little of both senses when we're actually sat here on the cushion. In a sense, we're inviting ourselves to drop the defences, drop the shields, drop the mask, drop the uniform that we wear all the time. And just, well, what then? Not that we're revealing some amazing inner truth, but just, no, what's the truth of me in this moment? This different senses of self, this feeling of the past, this anticipation of the future. And there are two I may come into relationship with all these others. I might meet my fears. I might meet my anger. I might meet my shame, or, as we always say, simply my boredom. What's going on now? Come on, please, distract me. Something happen. Anything like this, I can meet on the cushion. If I allow myself to become exposed, to be intimate with myself. And if we're thinking about sexuality, about sexual relationship, connection, in that sense, well, that's actually where I may come to feel, paradoxically, both the deepest sense of self. Maybe a bit like I'm saying on the cushion, this is just me. This is the truth of me, the depth of me. Well, yeah. In a sense, maybe that's true. In a sense, maybe it's just a feeling, just a story like all these other senses and stories. Or it may paradoxically be where I feel no sense of self. There's no me, there's no you, there's just this experience, this moment, and that's quite a lot. But all of these experiences of relationship, of real connection, they're about the way that our sense of self is always relationship, that our sense of self is based around the mutuality of connection or the absence of this mutuality. And I think what's so important about our intimate relationships is where if we're open to feeling aware of it, it's where we can really feel the intensity of this genuine meeting, this genuine recognition of the other, or of its absence, of its failure, whether that's momentary, we're lost and we re-find ourselves, or whether that's no. There is no real mutual recognition here. There are two people with their own agendas. Or even, just to make it sound more confusing, two parts of me with their own agendas. How do we see each other? How do we come together? So, our intimate relationships are a most perfect place to study the self, to study the selfing of the self, how we get to be this self that I am in this moment, feeling these feelings, doing these things, saying these words. And if we're willing to pay attention, if we're willing to allow just an awareness of how we are, we begin to become aware of what shapes this self. Well, of course, it's me. I'm feeling this. I've decided this. I want this. I don't want this. Yeah, but what actually creates that experience is the expectations I have of this meeting, my assumptions about who you and I are, my reactions to what happens, what's said, moment by moment by moment, and whether those assumptions or expectations harden into requirements. No, this is the way it has to be, and if it's not this way, there is something wrong. And of course, it's usually you are wrong, unless of course I decide I am wrong. Horror of horrors. What creates this? Well, my habits, just the way I've come to be, how I grew up. I turned out this way, but yeah, surely also my friends, people I associate with, hang out with, my family, people I work with. These days, increasingly, of course, social media, things people say, things I've read, things I've clicked on, things I've scrolled through. And then, of course, not just words and ideas, but images. And images which are always often so affecting, so effective of us. They're there, presented for us to make us feel emotion, attraction. They look nice, or oh gosh, or how sexy, or attraction, repulsion, invitation, emotional warmth, distance. And again, all for having real effects on where I'm coming forwards, where I'm going back, just how I feel. Image after image after image after image that we're presented with. And how does that relate to those questions which we maybe don't ask, but we always come with an attitude to? If we're talking about another body, not this body, but body there, what do I want of that body? What do I expect of that body? What do I want it to be? What do I want it to be in relation to this body? What are my expectations of this body? What are my assumptions? How do these sets fit together? And then, how do I want to be treated by this other? How do I want them to relate to me, and what can I offer? Or what do I find that I'm going to demand of them? This is really an infinite field of exploration and study. maybe study's the wrong word, but response, developing response, just awareness, just being aware as I see this being that I am, navigating this field. And having to answer the question, at least implicitly, if I'm sat on this cushion, what is any of this to do with this self? What is any of this to do with me? How far am I choosing any of this? What I feel, how I respond to things? And how far is it really being chosen for me? Where does it come from? Well, as I said, the history of me, the complexity of images, ideas, responses, other people's opinions. This is what I'm made out of. This is what I'm framed by. And if there's any sense in which our Buddhist, our Zen idea of no self is true, well, it's in this sense that, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say, I'm made out of entirely non-me elements. What else could I be made out of? And yet it all comes together as this experiencing within this body. Really, all relationship is like this in this sense. Whether it's about the best one-night stand ever or who empties the dishwasher, it's one sense, it's all the same thing. Where this becomes really important is where this comes back to recognition within relationship, recognition of the mutuality of relationship. And I'm saying this in what sound like fairly abstract terms, but it's the concrete specificity which is all important here, because mutuality implies we recognize each other as vulnerable, as mortal, hence suffering beings, but also there, actually present, as like me, but not me, as feeling the kind of things I feel, thinking the kind of thoughts I feel, but not me. But because of this mutuality, that I can only recognize that truly in you by recognizing that truly of me. And that where that breaks down is to begin to treat both of us as objects. Treat myself as an object, treat you as an object. And we talk a lot about, and we used to talk, decades ago, I'm old, a lot about objectification, particularly the objectification of women, which we talk about in relationship, usually to looking, to sight, to possession through sight. And that's a really interesting topic which we'll go to. But as soon as, and this is the point, as soon as we lose that recognition of the other, a recognition that's based on ourselves being mortal, vulnerable, suffering beings, we begin to objectify. And although when we think we retain control, we regain control thereby, we actually, in a way, objectify ourselves too. And so what's the process? What actually happens when we lose this recognition of the actual real existence of the other, as we do in all relationship, moment by moment, and re-find it, hopefully. And far more dangerously where we've never established that in the first place. We end up, and perhaps we only do this because we can't admit to our own vulnerability, our own mortality, our own lack of control, lack of ultimate control. And so what do? If we feel ourselves being pushed against, we push back, and we push back hard. I will control. I will show I'm present. I will show that I'm not vulnerable. And so I deny, I displace. And so actually, as soon as I'm in this situation, I can begin to displace all my fear, because that's what it comes down to. Going to die. Fear. I'm not in control. Well, of course I'm not. Nobody is. None of us are. But I need to be in control. And that makes me feel threatened. And that makes me feel angry. And so that gives me a need for aggression. What's the ultimate of anger? What's the ultimate for not being in control? To answer that, we have to ask the gender who think that they have to be in control. And that would be men, because as men we have to be in control. We're told that we're failing as men. We're told we're not men if we're not in control. And ultimately, if no other means will serve, we have recourse to violence of any kind. And so what about the need to be in control and the need to come back to being in control? Whether that's with the person I'm in relationship with, just talking over them, not hearing what they're saying, deciding that I'm right, deciding that what I need is more important, obviously. All of these things where we don't meet. And if we do meet, they don't tend to happen so much. And if they do happen, if we really meet, there's always a way through, a way around, because this is just assumption, requirement, whatever. An emotion coming up as a result. And what happens at the end of that? Well, the final stage, which presumably is where we connect with real violence, is where I ask you to hold all my violence for me, all my fear, all my anger, and to be truly and actually controlled. And that's something men can tend to demand of women, which comes back to control. So on the one hand, to the degree to which I can own my lack of control and the exciting infinite wonder of possibility in relationship with you, here and now. And on the other, if I lose that, if I drop that, if I feel I haven't found it, where will I go? Either folding inwards or coming out with the need to assert, the need to control. And as I say, this is something historically, long time historically, that men have asked or required or demanded of women. So how does that come back to our practice in terms of Zen? Because again, we have this idea that if I become simply clear, if I become simply in command, in control of myself, whether I'm a man, whether I'm a woman, this will all resolve. And yet clearly, I can't just drop all of my reactions, my assumptions, requirements. This is all stuff that has to be worked through. Perhaps consciously, perhaps just unconsciously, because this is so deeply rooted within us. But what can do this best, and what can do this most joyfully, it's recognition of the other, sharing a moment, or an encounter, or an experience, or many, many moments, and allow that to do its work, so that we can begin to come to see the connection between intimacy with all of this, all of me, and intimacy with the other, because they're mutually, they create each other together. That you and I only exist because of each other. That I can only really become aware of the complexity that is this being in relation to others out in the world.